All right, let's dive into something we all know, something simple but surprisingly complex. Water.
Yeah,
It's everywhere, right? We drink it, it falls from the sky. But today we're going deep into the chemistry of water to
exactly.
understand why it's called the universal solvent.
It's so easy to take water for granted,
Right.
but there's this whole world of chemical marvels just beneath the surface.
Hidden in plain sight, right.
Absolutely, and they're essential for life as we know it.
Okay, so we all know the basics, right? H2O, two hydrogens, one oxygen.
Right.
But what makes that combo so special?
Well, it all comes down to how those atoms are arranged
Uh-huh.
and the forces between them.
Okay.
Water is what chemists call a polar molecule.
Polar, like the North Pole.
Well, not exactly,
Okay.
but it does have a positive and a negative end.
Interesting.
Kind of like a magnet,
Okay.
the oxygen atom pulls on those electrons a bit stronger,
Okay.
so it ends up with a slightly negative charge,
Mm-hmm.
and that leaves the hydrogens a little bit positive.
Gotcha. So it's like a tiny magnet with a plus and a minus side.
That's a great way to think about it.
So how does that make it such a good solvent?
That's where things get really interesting, that uneven distribution of charge, that polarity. It allows water molecules to attract other charged particles and molecules.
Like a magnet.
Exactly. Those positive and negative ends, they act like little hooks, grabbing onto other molecules and pulling them apart.
So it's not just dissolving, it's like dismantling them at a molecular level.
Precisely. And that's what makes water such a powerful solvent.
Power
It can
solvent.
dissolve more substances than any other liquid.
Yeah, that's why it's called the universal solvent, right?
Exactly.
It's like the ultimate mixer at the molecular level.
And it's all thanks to those tiny charges.
Okay.
But it doesn't stop there.
What else?
That polarity also leads to something called hydrogen bonding.
Yeah, hydrogen bonding. I've heard of that.
It's how water molecules stick to each other.
Right, right.
So those slightly positive hydrogen atoms of one water molecule, they're attracted to the slightly negative oxygen atoms of other water molecules.
Okay.
These bonds are constantly forming and breaking.
Like a dance.
Yeah, creating this dynamic network of interactions.
They're all like clinging to each other.
That's a great way to picture it.
Cool.
And those hydrogen bonds, they're responsible for a lot of water's unique properties.
Oh, really? Like what?
Like high surface tension?
Oh, right. That's how insects can walk on water, right?
Exactly. Or its ability to absorb a lot of heat without big temperature changes.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is blowing my mind. Water is so much more complex than I ever imagined.
Right.
But you mentioned that it's essential for life, too.
Yeah.
So how do these chemical properties actually translate into, the life-giving force we all depend on?
Well, think about those solvent properties we talked about.
Yeah,
That's how nutrients and oxygen are transported throughout our bodies.
right.
And those hydrogen bonds, they help regulate temperature and maintain the structure of our cells.
Wow, so water's running the show inside us, too.
Absolutely.
It's like the ultimate multitask.
Dissolving, transporting, regulating, you name it.
I know, it's incredible.
And we haven't even touched on how it shapes the entire planet, like with weather patterns or carving out canyon.
Right. It's crazy to think about.
It is.
This is really making me thirsty for more information.
I know, right?
I can't believe we've only just begun to explore the world of water chemistry.
We've only scratched the surface.
Yeah, we've got a lot more to uncover.
Well, buckle up. Next, we're going to dive into how these tiny water molecules can actually form clusters.
Clusters.
Yeah, with unique properties.
What does that mean?
Almost like mini water gangs with their own special talents.
Mini water gangs. All right, now I'm really intrigued.
Yeah,
We'll have to wait for the next part to find out more about that.
exactly.
Stay tuned, folks, because this deep dive is just getting started.
That's right.
Welcome back. Last time we were talking about those water clusters, like little gangs with special talents.
Right.
You got to tell me more about that.
Well, it goes back to those hydrogen bonds.
Yeah.
Remember, they're constantly forming and breaking, creating this dynamic network
Mm-hmm.
that can lead to groups of water molecules sticking together in specific arrangements.
So it's not just a random jumble of H2O floating around.
Not exactly.
Interesting.
The arrangements are always shifting.
Okay.
But these clusters have some structure to them.
Gotcha.
And what's fascinating is that the size and shape of these clusters can change
Based on what?
on things like temperature and pressure.
So like a glass of ice water and a boiling pot of water could have different water molecule gangs in them.
That's a great way to think about it.
Cool. So how does it work in ice?
In ice, the water molecules are locked into a very specific crystalline structure,
Okay.
forming a rigid lattice.
Ah.
That's why ice is solid and actually less dense than liquid water.
Oh, right. That's why ice floats.
Exactly.
That always seemed weird to me.
It is counterintuitive.
Yeah, but in liquid water, those hydrogen bonds are more fluid, right?
Exactly. So the clusters are constantly forming and breaking apart.
Gotcha. So that's why liquid water can dissolve so many things.
Right. Those clusters are more dynamic, so they can surround and interact with other molecules more easily.
Okay, so these clusters play a role in water's unique properties, but how does this affect, like, life? The world around us?
Well, think about how lakes and oceans freeze.
Yeah.
If ice were denser than water, it would sink.
Oh, wow.
And those bodies of water would freeze solid from the bottom up.
That would be bad news for the fish.
Exactly. They wouldn't stand a chance.
Wow.
This property of water is crucial for aquatic life.
So the ice acts as insulation.
Exactly, protecting the water below from freezing.
So those tiny little clusters are having a huge impact.
They really are.
It's crazy to think about.
It highlights how small differences at the molecular level can have huge consequences.
Yeah.
And we're still learning so much about these water clusters.
You mentioned last time that scientists are looking into splitting water to create fuel.
Right.
Could these clusters play a role in that?
That's a great question, and it's something scientists are definitely exploring.
Okay.
Understanding how water molecules interact in these clusters could be key to developing more efficient ways to split water into hydrogen and oxygen.
Because if we could figure out how to do that on a large scale, it would change everything, right?
Absolutely. Hydrogen is a fantastic fuel source.
Really?
It burns cleanly, producing only water as a byproduct.
Wow. No greenhouse gases, no pollution.
Exactly.
So what's the catch? Why aren't we all driving hydrogen cars?
Well, there are still some challenges.
Like what?
Splitting water requires energy, and right now the process is still pretty inefficient and expensive.
So we need to find the right way to do it, the right conditions
Precisely.
to make it work efficiently?
Yes, but the potential rewards are huge. Imagine a world where we could power our homes and vehicles with a fuel source that's abundant, renewable, and environmentally friendly.
It sounds too good to be true.
I know, right?
But you're saying it's possible.
It's definitely within reach.
Wow. So water could hold the key to a sustainable future.
It really could.
That's incredible.
It is.
It's amazing how much we still don't know about the world around us.
Even something as simple as water.
Yeah, there's always more to learn.
Definitely. And in the next part, we'll delve into some of the other fascinating aspects of water, from its role in our bodies to the challenges of water pollution.
I'm ready to keep diving deeper. Don't miss the final part of our exploration of water chemistry.
It's a topic that affects us all.
So stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into water. We've gone from tiny molecules to vast oceans, exploring those hydrogen bonds, clusters, even water's impact on the planet.
Right. It's been quite a journey.
It have. But now let's zoom in on something a little closer to home.
Okay.
Us. Yeah, the role of water in our own bodies.
Right.
We've talked about how essential water is, but I want to understand how it works inside us.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
We're basically walking water balloons, right?
That's a pretty accurate analogy.
Okay, so give us some examples. How does water keep us alive?
Well, think back to those solvent properties we talked about.
Uh-huh.
Water acts as a delivery system.
Okay.
It dissolves nutrients from our food and transports them throughout the body.
Okay.
It carries oxygen to our cells.
Right.
Flushes out waste products.
Wow.
Even helps regulate our body temperature.
So water is like this multitasker inside us.
Exactly. It's constantly on the move, keeping everything running smoothly.
Amazing.
It's also crucial for maintaining the structure of our cells,
How so?
Those hydrogen bonds.
Yeah.
They help hold proteins in the right shape.
Oh, okay.
And that's essential for them to function properly.
It's crazy that something so simple is involved in such complex processes.
It's the elegance of nature, right?
Totally. And it's not just humans. Every living organism relies on water.
Absolutely. Every single one.
You mentioned underwater ecosystems earlier.
Yeah.
What makes those environments so unique chemically?
Underwater environments are incredibly diverse,
Right.
from freshwater lakes and rivers to vast saltwater oceans.
Totally different.
Each one presents unique challenges and opportunities for the organisms that live there.
I imagine the salt content is a big factor, right? The difference between freshwater and saltwater.
Huge factor. Salinity is key.
Okay.
Ocean water has way more salt than fresh water.
Yeah.
And marine organisms have evolved to deal with that.
So they don't turn into giant pickles.
Exactly. They have to regulate their internal salt balance very carefully.
Makes sense. What other chemical factors are there?
Well, the amount of dissolved oxygen is crucial.
Oxygen.
Yeah, for aquatic life.
Okay.
Colder, deeper waters usually have more oxygen,
Huh.
while warmer, shallower waters have less. That's why you find different types of organisms in different parts of a lake or ocean.
So it's like a giant cocktail with different ingredients at different depths.
Great analogy. But unfortunately, human activities can mess this up.
Yeah, pollution.
Exactly. Pollution from industrial waste, agricultural runoff. even plastic.
Right, it all ends up in the water.
It can have a devastating impact on water chemistry and those ecosystems.
It's a reminder that we can't take clean water for granted.
Absolutely not. Protecting our water resources is essential
For
for a whole planet.
Well, this has been an incredible journey.
Yeah, it has.
From tiny molecules to vast oceans, water is so much more than we think.
Absolutely. It's the lifeblood of our planet.
A source of wonder and something we need to protect.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the chemistry of water.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've learned something new and gained a new appreciation for this amazing substance.
That's what we were hoping for.
Until next time.